This video is on Virtual Desktop Infrastructure, VDI. In this video, we will learn about Virtual Desktop Infrastructure, Windows Virtual Desktop, and Azure Virtual Machines. What is Virtual Desktop Infrastructure? Virtual Desktop Infrastructure, or VDI, is a new service that will deliver virtual Windows desktops and apps to end users from Microsoft Azure infrastructure. On Azure, this is called Windows Virtual Desktop. Windows Virtual Desktop is a multi-user Windows 10 experience. It is the best service to virtualize Office 365 Pro Plus, provides Windows 7 Virtual Desktop, and allows you to virtualize both desktop and applications. Windows Virtual Desktop is currently in preview. I would suggest waiting for it to come out of preview before trying it. There currently seems to be a bug in the setup wizard that prevents us from demoing it today. Azure has a feature for virtual machines. You can create a virtual machine in Windows Azure and not have to have the hardware locally or the licenses locally to run the virtual machine. You can just run one from the cloud. Let's go ahead and create one. From Search, Resources, Services, and Docs, search for Virtual Machine and select the Virtual Machines services. Under Virtual Machines, click the plus for Add button and select the basics, which subscription you want to use, a resource group, select a name for the virtual machine, the region where you want the virtual machine to be located. You want this to be as close to you as possible. Available options include redundancy, but I'm going to select no infrastructure redundancy. What image you want to use. You have choice between several Linux distributions and several Windows versions. I'm going to go ahead and select Windows Pro version 1809. Next, create a user account and a password. Next, you want to select what inbound port rules you have. You have a choice of HTTP port 80, HTTPS port 443, SSH port 22, and RDP port 3389. I'm going to select RDP port 3389 so that we can remote desktop into this machine. Click Next to select your disks. You have a choice of Premium SSD, Standard SSD, and Standard HDD. I'm going to leave it on Standard SSD. You can attach a data disk at this point. I'm not going to. There are advanced options such as using managed disks that you can turn off, but the default usually works just fine. Click Next, set up networking. Define networking connectivity for your virtual machine. You can select an existing virtual network or create a new one, and you can select subnet at this point. You can also select the public IP address, which we're going to let it define. You can also set up NIC security group with advanced security or no security, and you allow selected ports. Again, we're going to leave RDP enabled. Click Next for management. Usually the defaults will be just fine for management. You might want to enable auto shutdown. You're charged for how long the machine is running. If you forget and just disconnect from your virtual machine, but leave it running, you're still charged for how much time the machine is up. Auto shutdown is a great feature that automatically shuts down the virtual machine at this point at 7 p.m. UTC. You can change this. I'm going to change it to Pacific time. We'll just leave the shutdown time for 7 p.m. Pacific time and enable automatic shutdown. Click Next for advanced settings. There usually isn't any advanced settings that you need to install, so click Next. You can select tags to help you find your resource. We're going to leave this blank. Next, we review our settings, and you can see validation passed. Let's click the Create button. This will create the virtual machine. This may take some time. Once your deployment is complete, click the Go to Resource button. From the Overview page, you can click on the public IP address to copy it to your clipboard. Then open Remote Desktop. And enter that IP address into the Remote Desktop connection. Then click Connect. Enter the credentials that you created earlier and click OK. The identity of the remote computer cannot be verified. Do you want to connect anyways? Say yes. After a few seconds, the desktop will spin up. The first time you connect, it will take longer than future connections. It's just like spinning up a new version of Windows. And there you have it, a new virtual machine up in the cloud with no hardware on your local machine being used. Just be sure to shut it down when you're finished using it. In this video, we learned about virtual desktop infrastructure, Windows Virtual Desktop, and Azure Virtual Machines. Please stay with us for the final video on Windows Sandbox.